Welcome back to another video, guys. So in this video you're gonna watch our yellow jacket silo and loader get installed. So the video kind of starts out as them throwing it all together, then at about 3 or 4 minutes in, kind of go over it and show you guys what's going on. So I hope you guys enjoy. I am a little bit later on editing this video. Took kind of, I guess, a couple weeks off as I got really busy, but tomorrow we are going to start filling that silo. So I'd like to get this video out because soon enough there will be footage of filling it. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy it. I guess you guys get pretty in tune with how it all goes after doing it all the time, eh?
Yeah, eventually you can. What? Is this right?
So we have now gotten our yellow jacket unloader installed. We have that over here. This is the winch for it. I do already have one of these yellow jacket winches. I love it. It's been great. Pretty simple design, works well. Little handle to adjust back and forth. Right here. It's 2-speed. You see that behind the cover here, so slow speed and a fast speed when you're lifting and raising the unloader. But today the unloader got installed as well as the winch. 3 guys showed up, I guess 4 if you include the driver. They had this thing in with very minimal amount of help in pretty well 2 hours. So here is the yellow jacket unloader. Anything that can be stainless steel is. So all of these spindles on these wheels, they are stainless steel. The chute here is poly, but that is stainless steel, along with there's a chute liner in there. There's stainless steel. All of the covers are. Here is the auger. That's stainless steel, or the auger cover, all that. The paddles are stainless. This cover is stainless. Like, just everything that can be is. The adjusters for the wheels are. Yeah, the spindles are. So this unloader is set up. It still needs power, but that is not a big deal. That is easy enough to get set. So yeah, that is our silo unloader installed. We went with the yellow jacket because it is the cheapest thing around, and it is very high quality. If there were no tariffs on Pats, and if Pats unloaders were somewhat reasonably priced still, we probably would have put another one in, but that is not the case for either of those. Last I heard is that a Pats unloader for 20 foot could run you nearly $40,000. We got a price on a Valmetal with HST. It was a little over 30, and then this one was less than 30,000. But yeah, this is our silo unloader. It's gonna be good for us. So we already have a yellow jacket went. It has worked flawlessly. The unloader is kind of a no-brainer. It was the cheapest around, and it could do everything for us that anything else could for the same quality. So a couple improvements that I've noticed is, like Valmetal, a lot of this stuff is very similar to Valmetal. This suit here is poly, but inside it has a stainless steel liner that is replaceable. So that is nice. I wish I showed you guys earlier before this was put together. I'm not going to take it apart, but this here, the paddles are straight. They aren't the floppy style anymore. The cupped paddles, I believe. It's one of the names for that. So this silo unloader has just a couple grease fittings. One here for a slip clutch. One here. I believe there's two here, if not three, just two. And then down below here, there is one as well. Back in there. So that was some pretty simple stuff. There's a gearbox in there with oil that is sealed for life, I've been told, or something like that. There was a gearbox somewhere. The only one that I needed to remember to look after is this one. Just once a year, pull out the drain plug and check that it is still full on oil. Yeah, that is kind of what we have going on here. So a couple other just quality of life improvements is these handles for adjustments. Can lift and lower it on a handle here instead of on our Pat silo unloaders. There's a little bolt that goes in with a 1/2 inch wrench or 9/16, something like that. The cables feed through a little nicer. The way these adjust are pretty nice. This was pretty simple to set up. I watched that. The tipper blades on here are quite a bit more aggressive, and the tipper's set. You just see, look at those knives. There's a lot of grab on there. The guy said just kind of every 20 feet if you grease this unloader, so 4 times a year. That'd be nice. We will see if I get to it. If I do get to it, I would not mind the idea of maybe somewhere here or there building a little toolbox, and then could throw a cheap grease gun on here along with a wrench, just in case you need it for anything. Maybe a 3/4 inch if you ever have to adjust the chipper or the tension on the belt. But yeah. You can see they have put a mark with a grinder where they want it set. So just like that. It's pretty easy to set that to turn it. The reason the wheel was pushed in like this was because when you lift it, this wheel will ride up along the wall. That was pretty straightforward there. Those guys that were here today cut my clean chute for me. In all of our silos, we like to run a clean chute, so they had cut that. So feed will go through here in a bag down into our conveyor, which is getting installed next week, which you will probably still see in this video. That is the hope. There's our tensioning arm. There's quite a bit of bracket work that has been added here. I believe on a patch you would have this as well on a 20-foot. So very similar to a Valmetal, very high quality. There is no book, if you will, that you get with this silo unloader or manual. But the guy that owns part of the company, he was here today installing it. Laverne Gingrich is his name. A brother to the guy that built it, and a brother to the guy that poured the footer. And then the next brother, Harvey, is going to be putting in our conveyor, which did show up today, or parts of it. But he has one in his silo. He put the first one in his silo back in 2018, so 7-year-old silo unloader. And it has been running great for him. These silos are around, or these silo unloaders are around in quite a few new silos you see now. Valmetal's still extremely popular too, but I can think of like Eric, 10th Generation Dairyman, they have some. And then there's another YouTube channel, Halcana Farm, I believe it's called. They have a 20-foot unloader as well, the exact same as this in their silo. I can't remember if they're center or side fill, but we stuck with side fill. Just less complicated. This silo unloader is going to have independent ring drive. This silo unloader has a remote to go with it. We decided we wanted that, so it'll have a 4-button remote for up, down, on, and off. And then over here there is the control box for that. On the silo unloader control box, which I'll have to show you guys at some point, there's a little switch to turn on and off the ring drive. So if you're center fill, you can turn it on, and then the blower and all that doesn't have to run. And if you're side fill, you don't need that to run. But what that allows you to do is you can turn on the blower, then on the ring drive you can let it run, and then you can turn off the ring drive and then the blower off, and that allows all the feed to clean out so that you no longer have to lift up the unloader to let it clean out. I should probably get in the habit of doing that more, but I do not do that. I've had very few problems not doing that. The odd time in the winter, if it gets really cold, I'll have a problem, but then you still have the chance to lift it up and start it, and generally it comes free. But more often than not, it is fine. But that is our silo unloader. That is our yellow jacket. This wheel here is supposed to be loose. This one is going to be the guide wheel. So the idea is, if in the winter you get a little bit of build-up, this wheel will come over it, and then this one will follow. If it was right snug to the wall, it is harder to get the unloader to roll by it. But very well built silo unloader. It is built in Ontario here, just around an hour away from us. Seems like I could not beat that for parts availability. The thought of there's a dealer down an hour south from us that stocks everything, and then there's these guys that build it that are about an hour north, maybe a little more, that also stock everything because they build it. Yellow jackets will make anywhere from a 12-foot to a 24-foot unloader. I believe if you want a 30-foot unloader, Valmetal is mainly your only option, or I believe there's also a Spiral Max unloader as well, but You can store a lot of feed in 20-foot and 24-foot silos. If I remember properly, 24 by 90 is around 750, 800 ton, and this silo is just shy of 600. So there's quite a lot of feed in one of these. 20 by 80 holds quite a bit more feed than 20 by 70. It just made sense to build a 20 by 80. More than likely this silo will be full by the end of the year. We have the acres. As long as we keep getting some promising weather, we'll probably fill it. It has room to grow with this size silo. I guess 40 more ton of feed roughly. So that is what we have going on, but it's a nice silo unloader. Should be really good for us. So sometime next week there will be a full day of work for our electrician to do. He's gonna hook this wire up to there, and then that one will run to there, the motor to the box, and then everything has to go into the silo room and all that fun stuff. But it'll be good. Then there'll be a conveyor to wire up. We went with the cord over the wall option. I think it'll work well for us. If we don't like it, there are other ways to do it. You can still install a looping kit later. But this was what was recommended. There's a little bit of pros and cons to it, just like everything, but there seem to be a couple more pros, so we'll see. I have one silo that I dragged the cord up still, one with a looping kit, and now one with the cord over the wall. The downside to this versus a looping kit is that when you start lifting the unloader up, you have to pull the cord down the outside of the chute, and then I just learned this today, and then as you lower the unloader, when it's less than half, the cord will want to go up and fall off, so you'll have to keep it coiled a little bit tight, but there is quite a bit of leeway in there. Yeah, but that is what we have going on here. But it is nice, stainless steel, nice big knives on there, nice chipper blades. I am fairly certain that we will get 2 or 3 years with hardly anything to do other than tighten the belts and grease it. New silo unloader generally gets you 5 years with basically no trouble, and then after that there is a little bit of maintenance to do here and there. But if you look after these things, that Pat's unloader in the small silo is got to be over 25 years old, and we have just looked after that now. My grandfather put it in, but my parents changed the auger in that one from a bear claw chain to a auger. If you look after them, they'll look after you. A little bit of maintenance, a little bit of walking around, checking on stuff. One of my blowers in the other silo had a crack in it this spring, so we switched that out. I believe the 16-footer is getting close to needing new knives, but that is fine. But if you just keep an eye on them and look after them, they will run every day of the year, no problem. Right now it is raining outside and I am inside this silo staying dry. All my feed will be conveyed into the barn, dropped off there, so it'll be much nicer than mud. So that is why we went this route with feed storage. Open station tractor, open station mixer. This was a nice way to contain it all. You can fill a silo with 2 people, and it just seems to work for us. With an unloader like this and 3 silos, we are set up fairly nice for someday if we wanted to do automated feeding. That is not too much of a stretch anymore. Just for the cows, we wouldn't have enough feed storage for the heifers all year round, but it's it's not a big deal if needed. We could always build another silo for that. But this will get us between our 3 silos enough feed for 100 cows. And that should be all we need for quite some time. So, interestingly enough, this silo here has a PATS tripod in the roof. This one has an agri metal, which is now Val metal. And then this one has a yellow jacket. So all 3 of them are running a different tripod. They all work, they're all compatible with everything. So in my one silo I'm running PATS unloader, PATS tripod with a yellow jacket, winch, another one agri metal, winch, agri metal tripod with a PATS unloader. I want to say probably around 2010. What we ended up doing is we were offered, we had a used agri metal in that big silo, and we were offered the same amount of money for it on trade-in as we bought it for. And back then PATS was pretty well priced. We had a PATS in the other silo, so we traded it in on a PATS. So that is what we had going on back then, and it's worked well. But I do see quite a few improvements on the yellow jacket over the PATS, so that is nice. It's very similar to an agri metal if you start looking, but the price was a little cheaper, so that is why we put that in. And the parts being basically right in our backyard, you cannot beat that kind of service, so that is why we did that. Alright, it is September 2nd today. Tomorrow our conveyor is going to get installed inside the feed room here. But what I'd like to do is go ahead and power wash the feed room and scrape everything out. So I have cleared out all of the stuff off the shelves and everything. We're gonna power wash down this feed room. We like to do it once a year anyway. Generally it is a September-October job, so it is due for a cleaning. So I'm gonna go ahead and clean out the feed room. It'll be nice. This feed room will get used a lot more now because all of our feed will be coming through here, versus before we relied a lot on the ag bags as well. But quite a lot of our feed will come through here, because we now have, on top of a silo for all of our corn silage, we now have this one full of haylage. So there's about 300 ton more feed storage, which accumulates to around 300 less round bales. So we'll be making a lot of feed in this feed room over the fall, winter, and spring. So it'll be nice to get all cleaned out. Alright, so it is next week now. The conveyor has been installed. So I know the day of I got some clips of that, but here's the conveyor. It is a covered conveyor. It's a belt conveyor. I would have probably preferred a chain conveyor, but the cost of that was double to a belt conveyor, so that is why we went with this. So the feed is going to come out of the clean chute, which will actually never be in that door. It's going to go up the whole way of the silo and always drop down 2 doors with the unloader. And there'll be a bag in between that'll put the feed in there, and then the feed will run up here on this belt conveyor, and then it'll drop down into our silo room. I do have a burnt out light bulb in here right now, so it's a little bit darker than it normally is, but the feed will run up and it'll drop off there. It throws it quite far, I've been told, so it'll drop it just kind of in front of that. I guess the beam for the molasses, if you call it that. So we will just park our mixer right in here and it'll fill. But that is kind of what's going on in here. So it should work nice for us. Still has to be wired up yet, otherwise I'd show you that. The electrician is coming next week to wire that. And then we'll be ready to start filling silo for corn silage. So today I've been busy prepping equipment for that. I washed up the round baler, or blew it off, washed it, and parked it in the shed. And now I'm gonna wash the cab tractor before we put it on the harvester, so that it'll be nice and clean for corn silage. Some years that works well, and then some years it gets wet out, so time will tell.